Members, on the concurrence file, we're moving to, file item 72 is passed and retained. We're moving to file item 73, AB 118. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 118 by Assembly Member Santiago and others, an act relating to hazardous substances and making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Mr. Santiago, you may open on the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members, for allowing me now to present the second portion of this excise package, AB 118. Now, I won't go through the history of this again, because I think we've stated it once, but I will state the lessons from it. And I will urge us once again that we fight for that we fight against environmental injustices in our communities. But I also want to outline some of the work that we've done to ensure that at the local level, and some of our colleagues participated, and I thank them for that. We fought to put an advisory committee together in our neighborhoods to ensure that there was pressure on state agencies to act. The feds also stepped up. And just to give you an idea, to avoid criminal prosecution, the executives at Excite cut a deal to allow for $39 million for the cleanup of Excite. But it did nothing for the surrounding neighborhoods. And while DTSC accessed $9 million for some blood testing, it still did nothing for these neighborhoods. And the state last year, we worked really hard and we were able to access $7 million. And thank you to the governor who stepped up and helped us. But this was only at a time where we thought 1,000 homes were affected in our communities. And you fast forward a few months and we find out that it's 10,000 homes that are affected within our communities. Over 100,000 people we now found out that were affected. We've done a number of legislative agendas and bills, and sorry if I get choked up. Sometimes when you think about my kid I have, when I think about my kid that I got at home, it's unbelievable to me that this has ever happened. But nonetheless, we pushed through legislation to ensure that this would never happen. We've worked with the AG's office, and yes, last year I engaged in some conversations with the DA to ensure that we would go after those polluters, and that we wouldn't rest until we did that. So this bill is just one step in a huge fight that we've had in our neighborhoods. For over 33 years, I continue to say this. It was allowed to operate with a temporary permit. Unbelievable to me. This bill would allow the appropriations portion, the $176 million. It would also address the job training, because we are trying to access jobs in our local communities if somebody's going to clean this up. We will look forward to local contracting, because we've impacted this community in such a negative way as a state. It also talks about community engagement. And I mentioned the advisory group because we'll continue to do a process of community engagement throughout the entire cleanup process so that it's transparent and that we have input to how our district is cleaned up. And we've also included an accountability measure. And this will allow reports to the state legislature so that we're ensuring that the dollars are used in the most appropriate way and that all dollars are held accountable. So I want to once again thank the governor's office for stepping up and appropriating $176 million for this community. But I want to assure the Assembly, in particular, that we're not going to rest on this. We will clean this up, but we will go after those polluters, and we will make this community whole. I want to thank all of our colleagues who have participated in this, and I respectfully ask for your vote.
Ms. Garcia, you are recognized.
Thank you, members. I'm going to keep this short. Thank you to our colleague for taking leadership on this item. We've thanked the governor. We're thanking ourselves. I think we need to stop and thank the community who actually over a decade ago created a community to try to fight this pollution and try to fight all the environmental justice issues, who continue to be at the table and when they were not being heard did not give up. And so as we move forward, these community participation is really important, but we have to recognize that we're joining them in what has been a really long battle, long-fought battle. And as we move forward, we need to make sure that they're leading this movement and we are their partners in the situation and not taking over it. So I want to thank them for that effort and for fighting for those over 100,000 residents, including myself, that live in that contamination. And thank you to our colleagues for finally listening to their voices and letting them know that they do matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Mr. Speaker, you are recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to start, obviously, by thanking the author of this legislation, not only for his words today, which show the extent to which this issue has impacted his family, but also his due diligence and hard work on this issue during his time in the legislature and even before. The personal story that the author shared is a story that has been repeated, multiplied over and over again in his district, in my district, in the district of our friend from Bell Gardens. This is an environmental catastrophe and something that should have been stopped a long time ago. AB 118 begins the process of starting to address some of the environmental hazards associated with this crisis. But more than that, or in addition to that, I should say, it also begins to restore some of the trust between the governed, those who live in those communities, and those of us who serve in this building, those of us who serve in other governmental capacities. This is a community that has been ignored for a significant amount of time. This is one example of many that illustrates how they've been ignored. This is a good thing to do. This is a right thing to do. This is something that we must do. So I want to ask for your support in favor for AB 118, and again, thank the author for his commitment to this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All debate having ceased, Mr. Santiago, you may close if you wish.
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
With that, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 73, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. We are on file item 74. That's AB 1142 by Mr. Gray. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1142 by Assembly Member Gray and Act relating to mining and geology.
Mr. Gray on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, last year the governor called upon the legislature to review California's Surface Mining and Reclamation Act. This bill is a result of that process. Senator Pavley and I have been negotiating with the governor's office and reforming, modernizing, and updating this act over the past year. This bill is comprehensive. It makes sure that mines are inspected every year by a qualified inspector. It's a response to that call to action. I would respectfully ask for your concurrence in these Senate amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 72, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File items 78 through 87 pass and retain. Pardon me. File items 75 and 77 pass and retain. 78 and 79 shall be continued. File items 80 through 87 pass and retain. Members, without objection, we're going to move to file item 99. It's H.R. 46 by Mr. O'Donnell. The clerk will read.
House Resolution 46 by Assembly Member O'Donnell relative to the Cambodian Genocide Memorial Day.
Mr. O'Donnell on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I am pleased to present H.R. 46, which recognizes April 17th as Cambodian Genocide Memorial Day. From April 17, 1975 to January 7, 1979, the Khmer Rouge perpetrated one of the greatest crimes of the 20th century. Nearly 20 million people died under this extremist rule, which imposed a ruthless agenda of forced labor, thought control, and mass execution upon Cambodia. After the overthrow of the Khmer Rouge regime in 1979, over 140,000 Cambodians came to the United States as refugees. My community of Long Beach is known around the world as home to the largest Cambodian community outside of Southeast Asia. The Cambodian people have drawn from their cultural history to rebuild their lives and communities in this state and have contributed greatly to our society and our city of Long Beach. The Cambodian genocide was a human tragedy and must be remembered for the massive scale of violence and devastation. Cambodian Genocide Memorial Day will honor the survivors and their descendants for their courage and contributions to our state and our country.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Seeing no discussion or debate on the resolution, we may take a voice vote. I'm sorry, Mr. O'Donnell, would you like co-authors on this resolution?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. The first roll will be open for co-authors on the resolution. Clerk will open the roll. All members wishing to add as co-authors on the resolution. This is for co-authors members on H.R. 46. Clerk will close the roll. There are 72 co-authors added. Without objection, we may take a voice vote on the resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Mr. O'Donnell, back to you for your guest introduction, along with Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. On behalf of Speaker Rendon and myself, I would like to welcome activists in the Cambodian community from my district here today in recognition of Cambodian Genocide Memorial Day. Please welcome Chan Hobson, Executive Director of the Khmer Parent Association, Susanna Sneim, Executive Director of the United Cambodian Community, a very active organization, and Sanara Sain with the United Cambodian Community. All good people, all very active in my community and our state.
Members, we are back on the file. We're moving to file item number 88 on third reading. That's AB 2147. For the purpose of amendments, clerk will read with amendments.
Assembly Bill 2147 with amendments by Assembly Member Eggman.
Dr. Eggman on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 2147 is an amendment that clarifies issues around impoundment and prostitution. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Eggman. Seeing no discussion or debate on the amendments, and without objection, we may take a voice vote on the amendments. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Bill is out to print and back on file. File items 89 through 92 pass and retain. That moves us to file item 93, AB 2291. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2291 by Assembly Member Shajian, an act relating to taxation.
Mr. Shajian on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 2291 would allow a county tax collector, upon authorization of the County Board of Supervisors, to recover the cost of offering a monthly payment plan for tax defaulted property. Owning a home is a great responsibility, and oftentimes that proves difficult for many homeowners who are unable to pay their annual property tax. Existing law allows counties to provide a monthly payment option, but most are unable to do so because, without specific authority to recover administrative costs, current budgets and an aging tax collection system do not support the additional expense to manage this program. AB 2291 will allow more counties to offer taxpayers who wish to pay off delinquent taxes a lower barrier of entry than the standard annual plan by accepting lower monthly payments. This bill is both taxpayer-friendly and maintains local control for counties who choose to provide this service. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shajian. Mr. Billy Thomas, you are recognized.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, colleagues, rise in support of AB 2291 by our colleague from San Luis Obispo. It came out of the Committee on Revenue and Taxation with bipartisan support because the authors made sure that we are trying to modernize the tax collection system. As he just stated, it is taxpayer friendly. It is friendly to local government, and I think it will promote innovation in the way that we collect and administer the tax system at the local level. With that, I will respectfully request an aye vote for AB 2291. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Ridley Thomas. All debate having ceased, Mr. Shajian, you may close if you wish.
I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
With that, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 71, no 0. Measure passes. File item 94, AB 1947. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1947 by Assemblymember David Chu, and Aqualate and Health Facilities.
Mr. David Chu, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, AB 1947 simply requires a uniform, published and online checklist outlining the information required for affiliate clinics to apply for new licenses as well as license changes. The amendments that we took in the Appropriations Committee also removes a section of code to align with law that was passed last year. This bill aims to make it clear to licensees what is required, as well as reduce DPH workloads by cutting down on review time. Respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. Seeing no discussion on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 54, noes 9. Measure passes. File item 95 passed and retained. File item 96, AB 2218. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2218 by Assemblymember Burke, and Aqualate and Gambling.
Ms. Burke, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 2218 extends the application time for gambling licenses by 15 days. Today, when the Gambling Control Commission requires various employees of card clubs or those holding an interest in a club to come forward for licensing, the individual must file an application for the gambling license that includes extensive background and financial information within 45 days. Depending on their various financial holdings, the documents required can require a great deal of time and effort to compile. By extending the timeline to 60 days, AB 2218 allows applicants the time to put together the most comprehensive document package possible. There's no opposition. I respectfully request your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Seeing no discussion on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 71, no 0. Measure passes. File item 97 is ACR 121. The clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 121 by Assemblymember Gomez relative to the Los Angeles County Deputy Sheriff Thomas H. Pullman Memorial Interchange.
Mr. Gomez, you may open.
Mr. Speaker, permission to use a prop?
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, members, it's heartbreaking to learn of any tragedy, especially when it involves someone being taken from us too early. Allow me to present the story and face of a selfless public servant who served my district in East Los Angeles. Deputy Thomas Pullman was a deputy for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. He was on patrol when he smelled ether used to manufacture the drug PCP. He called for assistance, but before backup arrived, the suspect ran from the scene. Deputy Pullman caught up with him, and in the ensuing struggle, he was shot and died at the scene. He was only 27 at the time and left behind, or let's not say left behind, but was taken from a young family. Let me share the widow's reflection of this incident and of her loving husband. Your memory lives on in all our hearts. Your positive influence continues to touch your children. Your grandsons carry your name with honor and dignity. I thank God daily for every minute we had together. With love, Jenny, his wife. Members, ACR 121 designates the interchange at State Highway Route 60 and Interstate 710 in East Los Angeles as the Los Angeles County Deputy Sheriff Thomas H. Pullman Memorial Interchange in honor of his sacrifice. ACR 121 furthermore lets his family know that we as a community remember him and remember his family and their sacrifice. I ask for your support for Deputy Pullman and his family, and I request that the first roll be open for co-authors.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Seeing no discussion on the item, Mr. Gomez is asking the first roll be open for co-authors on the resolution. The clerk will open the roll. All members wishing to add as co-authors, this is for co-authors on ACR 121. The clerk will close the roll. There are 71 co-authors added. Members, this requires a roll call vote. The clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 71, no 0. Resolution is adopted. File item 98, ACR 156. The clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 156 by Assembly Member Lowe relative to hemophilia.
Mr. Lowe, you may open on the resolution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise today to introduce ACR 156 to recognize April 17th as World Hemophilia Day. Hemophilia is a rare genetic bleeding disorder that prevents the blood from clotting normally. According to the National Hemophilia Foundation, it is estimated that more than 400,000 people are living with hemophilia, with 20,000 of those people living here in the United States. Approximately 75 people living with hemophilia worldwide have inadequate treatment or no access to such treatment. Globally, most people are never diagnosed and as a result have never received treatment. This resolution brings awareness to those living with hemophilia on a daily basis. World Hemophilia Day affords us the opportunity to raise awareness and to support those living with hemophilia. With that, I ask for your aye vote on this resolution and request the rolls be open for co-authors.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. Seeing no discussion on the resolution, Mr. Lowe is requesting the first roll be open for co-authors. The clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors on the resolution, co-authors on ACR 156. The clerk will close the roll. There are 73 co-authors added on the resolution. Without objection, we may take a voice vote on the resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. We've already dispensed with file item 99. We're moving to file item 100. That's AB 1817. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1817 by Assembly Member Mark Stone and Acrolate and Solid Waste.
Mr. Stone, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. The Monterey Regional Waste Management District is formed under a particular statute. I believe it's the only special district remaining under that particular statute. What this bill does is bring that statute in line with all the other authorities for special districts with respect to accounting practices and compensation for the Board of Directors. I ask for your aye votes.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Seeing no discussion or debate on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 52, noes 15. Measure passes. File items 101 and 102 passed and retained. We've already dispensed with file item 103, and file item 104 is passed and retain. Moving to consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from the consent calendar? Yes, Mr. Calderon, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At the request of the author, please remove AB 2269 Waldron from the consent calendar.
Clerk will note. Seeing and hearing no additional items to be removed, the clerk will read the second-day consent calendar.
Assembly Bill 1645 by Assemblymember DeBobney and Act relating to insurance.
And the clerk will open the roll on the consent calendar. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 75, noes 0. The consent calendar is adopted. The clerk will read the remaining bills on the second-day consent calendar.
Assembly Bill 2885.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1563.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1579.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1678.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1682.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1684.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1706.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1722.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1744.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1746.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1782.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1784.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1802.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1813.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1824.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1917.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1976.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2080.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2232.
Ayes 75, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2519.
Ayes 75, no 0.
And Assembly Bill 2537.
Ayes 75, no 0. Members, the session schedule is as follows. Friday, April 15th, no check-in session, no floor session. Monday, April 18th, floor session at 1 p.m. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions shall be continued. Seeing and hearing no further business, I am ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Calderon moves. Mr. Mainshine seconds that this House stands adjourned until Monday, April 18th at 1 p.m. Quorum call is lifted.